I'm sure you guys will agree, but I wanted to kind of break it into like 3 parts, where the first we're not talking spoilers, the second we like talk about spoilers, and then the third, I wanted to like avoid talking about part 2 until that part, because we know what happens, and like you can talk about, like no one can avoid spoilers for Wicked. It's been out 20, 30 years.
We can talk about the play.
Right, yeah.
We can leave foreshadowing and stuff for the final bit.
Yeah, because like yes, you can't avoid spoilers, but it's also really cool that this has reignited passion in people who didn't know what Wicked was before. And they're like
for us this is old news, but
right, yeah, my friends are like, I'm actually very excited. I don't know what happens, you know, so that's kind of exciting to me, you know.
Welcome to our conversation about Wicked.
I didn't think to wear green, but black is also one of Elphaba's colors.
It's true.
So that works.
Yeah, and you know what? Seasonal. This works.
Yeah, it works. It works.
We're recording this in December.
It works. Don't criticize it, or we'll.
Do criticize it. Criticize as much as you want.
Criticize me, daddy.
Yeah,
We did that
we're
in the
here.
first minute. That's not good for YouTube.
Oh, well, let's start again then, perhaps. Welcome back to the Talkcast Pod Show.
Where we come.
Over and over again about Wicked. Before we get into this, I have a small rant I want to go through. It's been building for the longest time.
Sure.
When we lived in Texas, I would see, whenever possible, movies at the Alamo Drafthouse. The Alamo Drafthouse closed. The next place I could see it was the AMC. And I have a massive fucking issue with how the AMC self-promotes itself before every, like, I get it. Theaters are dying. You need people to come in. But you don't need 20 whole minutes. Like, I timed it once. 20 minutes just of AMC ads.
Our projectors are so sexy.
And yeah, it depends on what theater you're in. Are you in one of the laser projection? Are you in the IMAX? Are you in the Dolby Theater Experience? And
you
don't
missed
forget
the
to drink your Coca-Cola. But you know what? Heartbreak feels better in a place like this.
Yeah.
There are so many.
I love that one. I don't get tired of that one.
Here's the thing. I'd be fine if that was it. But they have the before the previews AMC ad, which doesn't even include the pre-show. Like, welcome to AMC. The one that I think broke me was the final one that they played before the, like, heartbreak feels better in a place like this. We want to thank our investors.
Yeah, no, we were laughing at that. You laughed very loudly at that.
It's like, it's so, like, it's on the verge of parody. It's like, we want to thank our investors and all of our AMC Stubbs members. Like, Jesus, corporate Christ.
And I was also, it was also like, and then they went into like talking about each of the tiers. Of it's just like, if you subscribe to us on Patreon.
Like, I understand the corporate need to essentially turn movie theaters into a membership, because that's the only way they can make money now. Is like, because they aren't getting the ticket sales. They need subscribers.
Yeah.
The first attempt at that, I believe, went under.
But that was just a person on their own trying to do it. Now it's the movie theaters themselves doing it.
They're
so
like,
it's
good idea, fool. Now we'll do the profitable version.
I think that's why the Nicole Kidman one can be so pure and not full of like Coca-Cola, buy this in the lobby or whatever. It's just like pure
cringe, but it is pure.
Yes, it is pure in its cringe, you know? It's like, I love the cinema. I want to sit, you know?
It's very earnest in its cynicism.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why it can be so pure, is because they're like,
fair.
they bombard you with it like hell before.
It's too much. AMC, pull back a little. I don't need to, like, look, man, your concessions cost more than your stock. I get it, but Christ.
The concessions cost more than the movie ticket most of the time.
That's
like,
how that's where most movie theaters make their money.
Yeah.
But they're trying to get that subscription service in there, so it's kind of like a gym membership. It's like, okay, even in January when nobody sees movies, we're still gonna get that $12.99 from you or whatever.
Yeah, you might as well come in, and then you might as well spend money on popcorn while you're here.
Exactly. So yeah, that's my rant on that for
and
now.
now let's talk about the previews. There's that shitty Zachary Levi movie. about the most cartoonishly autistic kid on the planet.
Honestly, I thought it looked a little charming. The Unbreakable kid, I think it looks charming. I think it's cute.
I'm somewhere in the middle, so I'm glad we all have differing opinions on it.
And the thing is, I know it's based on a real kid, so maybe the real kid kind of acted like that. It's just one of those things like that. Of course, that's the story Hollywood tells us about the most cartoonishly, obviously.
Well, yeah, you have to be like But
Yeah.
yeah.
But and I was off on a bad foot seeing Zachary Levi.
That's
that
fine.
guy's a piece of shit.
I didn't trust him with the child. I was like, get away from the child.
I
don't
thought it
like
was Ed
this.
Helms for a second.
I might have been more into it if it were Ed Helms.
Yeah.
Speaking of autism, theater kids. Before I saw Wicked, I was talking to Quinn on stream about this. But and also, I'm autistic and have ADD, so I'm not saying this from a weird place. I'm saying this as a representation place. My favorite interpretation. I've seen so many productions of Wicked. I've seen 4 live. I've seen many slime tutorials. I've seen a lot of different portrayals of these 2 characters, and my personal favorite are when it is ADD Glinda and autistic Alphaba. I think those 2 go really, really well together, and this movie fucking delivered on it. I was so excited about that.
No, this to get into the non-spoiler discussion of Wicked, I think this was very well put together, very well cast, almost a perfect film adaptation of a stage musical.
Yeah, no, we were talking about this yesterday, but it's a big swing for me to say this, but I think it's true. I think it is the best movie adaptation of a Broadway musical.
It's still too soon after seeing that for me to commit to that claim, but I have a hard time refuting that claim.
I think it also really depends on how part 2 goes. Because as much as we may have enjoyed part 1, they could still fuck up part 2.
Yeah, because for those that don't know, part 1 only covers essentially the first act of the Wicked musical play,
and act 2 of the musical is half an hour.
I was like so many of the good songs are in the first act. Which is why I was upon hearing oh, it's only the first act and it's still nearly 3 hours long.
I went into this movie very cynically.
Yes, same. I did not have high hopes.
I didn't like the idea of doing a part 1 and part 2.
Yeah.
Now that I've seen part 1, I'm like, okay, part 1 being on its own actually feels
it worked
good.
It worked really well.
I'm still worried about part 2 because they're going to they fleshed out a few things in part 1 to make it the length that it was, but they have to really pack part 2 with many things. Now, to be fair, Act 2 of the show is really rushed. The story just fucking blasts through their entire adulthoods.
It does, yeah.
So there is places to flesh out.
We're already breaking our own rules.
No, I think that's a little okay. We're not going spoilers.
Yeah.
So.
There different things happen in part 2.
Yeah, the first act is all about Elphaba and Galinda in school, essentially Magic High School or Magic College, whatever the hell age range they're supposed to be.
And then there's an anime time skip, and then part 2 will happen. So we'll it's fine to go into the movie with that knowledge. In fact, it's probably better than being surprised by the to be continued.
Yeah,
I can't wait for Wicked Shippuden.
You say this, but when I was watching, the phrase that kind of came to my mind is wow, this is if a shonen anime was a fucking musical.
Honestly,
the way the arcs play out for the characters and the way the music is
A shonen anime that's also a slow burn romance.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, it plays out like a high school anime in a lot of ways, both visually and just in terms of its overall tone.
They even do bow staff training, which I'm sure is foreshadowing for something in part 2 that is not.
Well, we know
show.
we know where this goes, but
yes, but I don't know of anything that involves fighting with stabs, but I can imagine things.
Yeah.
It's. I came into this very cynically, but I ended up enjoying the show, and I saw it twice when you guys are like, hey, you want to go again? I was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, we went.
Jesse's seen it 4 times.
Yeah, we went.
I've seen it 4 times.
Yeah, my first time seeing the movie was yesterday.
Yeah.
I had seen the play, probably half a dozen times with my ex. She loves Wicked, and I don't blame her. It's a fantastic show.
I heard the soundtrack a lot, and I never saw the show.
Okay.
Except for, I think I saw a slime tutorial once.
Yeah, Jesse, you'd seen the movie 4 times as
4
of
times.
yesterday.
Yeah.
And that was your second viewing, Stephan.
My second, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't know that I cared that much about Wicked, if that makes sense. I was obsessed with it at a younger age when you're discovering musical theater and you're like, oh, this is really cool. But I hadn't seen anything of it in maybe 4 or 5 years at this point. but I was sitting there with a huge fucking grin on my face the entire time.
Oh my
Like,
god! Like,
Also crying. I
Yeah.
caught you crying multiple
Yeah.
times.
yeah, there's tearjerker moments in this thing, like things that dwell up the emotions, but it's so visually striking. It's funny. I was sitting there in the theater, and the parts were like, you know, the emotions were coming. I'm like, I feel like I need to cry, but I don't want to close my eyes. So I tilted my head so that my tears would just stream out of the one side. It's like, okay, good. I can keep my eyes open like this. Like, I found a way to efficiently cry.
That's a great review of it. Is you
Yeah.
won't want to close your eyes even to cry.
It's so visually striking and beautiful, though.
It is. I didn't want to look away. Like,
I do have some quibbles with it visually because they really mute their own colors a lot.
I think that's on purpose.
I do
it-
too. I think it's just a
specifically-
bad choice.
Here's like I'll get into this in a second, but like I think when they muted the colors was honestly, in my opinion, a good choice for when they were doing it. But
to me, it bothers me when everybody's skin tones are desaturated. It's like the original Wizard of Oz is a more colorful film, and I don't buy the whole oh well, it needs to be more realistic. Fuck that. No, you're in a fantasy land. Make it
every
fantastical.
now and again they embrace that, like that
Yeah.
that opening camera sweep where you have like the messenger running to deliver the news.
No,
and
I love
over
the way
Munchkin Land.
I love the
and-
way Munchkin Land works. I'm surprised they're able to use the word Munchkin Land because that's exclusive to the old film. But I will be dropping Oz lore, like original L. Frank Baum Oz lore here and there. But
Stefan's very knowledgeable about Wizard of Oz.
I got obsessed with it last year for some reason, like just out of the blue. But
Sometimes you just go on the wiki dive.
speaking of autism,
Yeah, right? Like, we just get super interested in something. You're like, I'm going to talk about this for 2 months straight, actually.
I decided I'm gonna make a webcomic.
I'm gonna make a mini series about Craven the Hunter. And just
I appreciated the times when it did feel colorful, but like during a lot of school stuff, it was like very desaturated in a way that I found disappointing. Where it's like you have these great sets and they're not like popping the way they could.
You're more film-minded than I am,
Yeah.
so I can see that perspective.
I
coming
could
in.
just see room for improvement in the color grade, which frankly in a lot of movies right now, I feel like the color grade just does not hit the way that it could.
Yeah.
That's totally fair, yeah.
I do think that this movie came out at such an amazing point in time, though. Just this microcosm, both like this is me thinking both like as somewhat of a corpo and also as like a wow. Just in terms of like the zeitgeist right now with everything that's going on, a movie about how to recognize and the dangers of propaganda.
Yeah.
and othering people.
There are people denying right now that it's about fascism, and I'm like, how
How do you miss that message?
There's some lady who went viral on TikTok being like, Alphaba is Trump, and it's like,
What?
You are the stupidest person on the planet.
They're trans
Look.
in the monkeys against their will.
No, yeah, the guy who said everyone needs an enemy to fight, so I'll just give them an enemy. Yeah, that's not anybody. That couldn't be anybody.
It's all
in
about
particular.
it's all about the dangers of othering people.
Yeah.
And the rise of populist fascism.
The show originally got popular in post 9/11.
Yeah. So like to
Bush
come
era.
out right now, man, the dice roll of after that election really hit them well.
Yeah.
But not only is it like really culturally appropriate for this movie to be gaining steam right now, but the fact that we live in a post Barbie world where you get to embrace all like the bright pink, like bubbly character that Galinda is. It's just like it hit this like perfect microcosm that I am not shocked that it is doing amazingly right now, but the fact that the movie was so well put together just made me so happy. Like I let out an audible wow at the end, like when we hit credits.
Yeah, I heard you. I
You
was so
simply
excited.
went, God damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, because with Stephan and I, we saw it for the first time together, and once the house lights went up, I was like, that's one of the best adaptations of a musical I've ever seen. Like, I was just in shock.
Yeah, I don't think there's been anything to rival it in terms of adapting musicals since Chicago, which was over 20 years ago.
Yeah, the last big Hollywood musical I can think of is like what, La La Land? Or when did Spielberg's
Spielberg's West Side Story did not do very well.
it did not do very well. Okay, La La Land I remember doing fairly well.
I will say, actually, like to pull it back, I keep forgetting, but like, because like again, nobody talks about it, but actually Spielberg's West Side Story was an amazing adaptation. So that was the last great adaptation.
Because it's also like in my top, like people also forget about Tick Tick Boom and Matilda. I think those were
I really
also,
liked those too.
Yeah.
Actually, we were at a great time for
We're at a
musical
great
adaptations.
time.
Actually,
Yeah, we're eating well. Theater kids are eating well right
you got to
now.
go watch all those now.
Go watch them. Seriously, no, they're great.
All right. I'll put those on my ever-growing list of media I need to consume. Blatantly, this is coming from 3 fans of musicals who were theater kids doing musicals.
I think we all discovered this show in like high school, like, or maybe a little earlier for you.
Later for me.
Later for you.
In terms of like discovering the show, because I don't go out of my way to like listen to musicals. I would just like be in them and have fun doing them. It's not that I don't enjoy them. I just never really, I don't broaden my horizons as much as I should, essentially. But I've heard even like everybody I've talked to, like when we were going through like Universal City, like, at like the Wicked pop-up stations and stuff like that, everybody, they would be like, oh, have you seen it yet? No, not yet. I'm not into musicals, but I think that was one of the best movies this year. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, so even non-musical people have really, really liked it, which I think comes down to that almost sort of like anime storytelling aesthetic that I was mentioning, because it's got that kind of hectic pace and this great character work, which already kind of
very broad appeal. Like
Yeah.
it's very broadly appealing and easy to identify with.
Yeah.
Just the story of like, oh, school sucks.
And I also think it's great that they're not hiding that it's a musical. Like Wonka and like one other one, Mean Girls, they were hiding that they were musicals in the trailers, and so people would go and rightfully be a little pissed off when it started. Like, I didn't sign up for this. Like,
And Mean Girls, Mean Girls, I didn't watch the Mean Girls adaptation, but apparently when you watch the movie, it feels ashamed to be a musical.
What about Joker 2?
it's not a music.
I don't think any of us have seen it.
No. And that we align with most of the people on this planet, including
Yeah,
most people who
we're
watch
saving
Joker
up
1.
we're saving up our comic book stomach for Kraven the Hunter, which will probably be our next review.
I can't wait to see Craven the
I am
Hunter
not
in
looking
theaters.
forward to that.
I got us seats at like the fun motion seats, so you'll get even more
Fuck
nauseous.
yeah, yes. Punch me in the back of the head.
Punch me, Crave Daddy.
I'm gonna come to that one upset.
Get ready.
But this movie was. I've heard stories of like women taking their boyfriends and the boyfriends coming out loving it. Like even though
That's
they were
so
like,
nice.
oh, I'll see it for my girlfriend, and then they're like,
I love that.
No, like, no, that was great. Well, and, like,
beautiful.
It's legit good.
like, because like, yeah, like we're marks. Like we're gonna we're gonna like a well adapted musical that loves being a musical.
So
There's so much heart.
if you need the non-spoilers, we all 3 heavily recommend it. If you haven't by now, it's been out for almost a month.
It actually like barely drags at all. Despite
That was
its
very
runtime.
surprising.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like 2 hours.
It's
like,
very well paced throughout, which is bizarre for a movie that long. Like that was one of the movies where I didn't even have to go to the bathroom and it didn't feel long.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
Oh, I was pissed off. I didn't even we didn't talk about this, but in our showing, did you notice that literally every 5 minutes someone was getting up to go to the bathroom? I was like, what are you doing?
they have to pee.
Cinema is happening.
Yeah, but it was so much. I've never seen so many people go to the bathroom, and I'm like, why are you, just hold it, dude.
I didn't notice. I don't care about other people.
Yeah, no, I never noticed that, but it was literally maybe every 10 minutes there was one person running across because they're like, oh, sorry, I don't want to disturb the movie.
There's a little kerfuffle again. Like I've seen lots of TikTok discussion of Wicked. Excuse me. Great time for that to happen. But
TikTok discussion.
TikTok.
But like there are people saying how I can't believe people are getting up to go to the bathroom during I'm Not That
During
Girl.
a 3-hour show. To be fair, that is the someplace that's green of that show.
I like Someplace That's Green.
I hate
but
that song.
I don't
hate it, but it is the weakest part of Little Shop.
I usually don't like ballads, but I like Somewhere That's Green because it's funny. Most people agree that Sentimental Man is a good time to leave. Come
That's
back.
yeah.
It's
well,
short, but if
you can get to the bathroom quick.
he also does a little dance, so
Yeah,
you don't
there's
have
time. That's if you need a place to go to the bathroom.
Although that is almost 2 hours into the movie.
It is. Hold it until then, and then
You can
God
find
forbid.
you can find a spot.
you
That's,
need to butter your popcorn.
It's at the end.
With something like Wicked, where these lines have been delivered over and over a million times, and we've all heard them delivered a million times, it's really difficult to have someone speak them as if it's the first time. And it's so crazy that I felt like that genuinely the whole time, and I didn't realize that I was feeling this way until Elphaba's line, where it's that little monologue about you have no real power. It made me realize, like, oh, no one's ever delivered it with this cadence, with this amount of passion.
It's
like,
yeah, it's the same way I think about Shakespeare. How many times have each of those plays been run? And everybody had, like, you know, if you're good, you're delivering it fresh every show.
It's really hard.
I'm like with Shakespeare stuff. I'm of the opinion. Fuck iambic pentameter. It's a. You don't need to put that limit on people's performances. I like when people perform Shakespeare somewhat
Fluidly,
like naturally.
Yeah.
But I also prefer natural acting in general. But like, yeah, I felt a lot of natural acting like between the songs and sometimes in the songs. Again, I do have a lot of quibbles with Defying Gravity. Like,
I did too.
The only one I really have is that break near the end.
Yeah.
Like that.
They just kept pausing and like doing shit.
Yeah.
And then like that moment where they're like, and now she looks really a lot like the Wicked Witch. I'm like, no one gives a shit. Don't slow down the song for this.
It does do a disservice to the song, I think.
Yeah.
I had two things that I did not like, or two qualms that I like. One of them was like when we were talking about it, after we had finished it, I was like, you have to cut to black after the last line of Defying Gravity.
That's what I thought too. I thought they were going to let her do that last note, but then they kept going and let the chorus be the last line.
It sucked, quite frankly. I hated it because it didn't add anything to it. All you have is that scene of Madame Morrible rushing Glinda away, and she looks back longfully, and then her going in, the Elphaba zooming
doing
off.
the superhero flight.
Yeah, but with how they're ordering things, you could have your cake and eat it too. You could just layer that and have it shown while still doing the cut to black after the last note.
I was shocked that it wasn't a cut to black after the boom.
Yeah, everyone knows that's what happens, you know? So like when it doesn't happen, it made me mad.
It felt weird.
It felt
did
weird.
feel weird. Like
They really extend, that the whole, like, it takes some of the punch away when it's not, nobody knows, bring me down, like, just do it right after that part. Like, don't.
Yeah. We were also noting the "it's me"
It's me instead of it's me, which is a small thing, but it matters to me.
I don't mind it as much. I'm fine with some people like taking their own like. We talked about this afterwards too. How like sometimes you felt weird about the way some of the songs were sang.
Some of it like a lot. I felt weird about a lot of the changes to songs. The first time I watched it, second time I was more used to it, and most of it I didn't mind. Except for Defying Gravity.
It's because you're so used to like listening to a certain version that when you hear like a difference, like no, my brain don't recognize that. Don't like.
Yeah.
That's totally fair.
And some of it's that. Some of it could be legit. Like going back and re-listening, I was like, no, this version is legitimately
ruining
worse.
the pacing of a song really bugs
the
me.
pacing bothered me, specifically in Popular and Defying Gravity.
Yeah. Like, Popular, I was less bothered by because they mostly just ruined the end of the song, which I'm like, that's not that big of a deal to me.
I liked all of it.
I still liked it, but I can see like, I know what you're doing. I know like this is the very pregnant. Like, do you remember when the sequel trilogy of Star Wars was coming out? How in The Force Awakens they had that very pregnant pause after a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and it was closed for like 5 seconds. Oh, are you ready? You ready? That's what it was to me. It's like, okay, you're edging me. Like,
Yeah. I could
also
feel.
argue it's like almost recreating the feeling of when it first did it as well. Of, like,
that's what they're trying to do.
surprising
But
them.
yes, you're literally edging the audience with like what they know is about to happen.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I could feel what was happening, but I was like, you know what? I'll let you.
In Defying Gravity, I'm much less lenient on that just because, like, you've really harmed the song.
Yeah.
Like, the pacing of the scene is now harmed. I didn't like the whole falling down and seeing herself in the reflection shit.
I thought that was fine.
I liked it.
I thought it was a little too on the nose in a movie that's plenty on the nose already.
That's fair, but I also I kind of like that they brought back the little girl actress because like I expect normally in movies you see the little flashback and then she never comes back and then I never think about her again. But so I kind of liked that they brought it back because
I don't care about that. I just care about it harming the pacing.
I didn't mind it in terms of pacing. It was one of those things where, kind of like they had the flashback interjections. It felt like that to me, where it's like, okay, she's having her moment real quick, and then she's back up and into the song again.
Yeah, but then they also paused in the middle of getting back into the song.
That was the part that I had a problem with.
Yes.
We don't need that much of a shit happening between
You take one or the other, not both. But that's,
down and need to happen pretty close to each other.
Yeah, that's the biggest quibble I have with the movie, and it is Admittedly, a minor quibble for me.
It doesn't matter as much in other songs, but it did happen in other songs a decent amount. But I wasn't too worried about that.
Yeah.
It's just in Defying Gravity when you're genuinely like fucking with the feeling of the song.
It's the emotional high point.
Yeah. So like breaking that up and like continuing to like bring the energy back down. It's like, come on, God, let us like ride a wave.
Yeah. My only other issue is also its strength, which is that they had a pianist and they had like things in the ear so that they could slow down the pacing. They sang live like while they were recording it. And that's awesome. But it also makes the soundtrack unlistenable. They did not do any
They should have just
fixing.
re-recorded for the soundtrack.
Yes, you can hear the differences in microphones. You can hear like normally in video editing, you can like hide little pops and hide little things with like sound effects or whatever, but that's gone in the soundtrack. And so it feels like they just ripped it from the timeline. In
I'll admit, in like as my first viewing, I didn't notice.
No,
in
we're
the
talking
movie, it's
about
great.
we're talking about the soundtrack.
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I haven't listened.
I went
when you go onto
because
Spotify.
Jesse asked me to also listen. I went back and listened as well. Like, yeah, and they just sort of used a lot of the takes from the movie, and it's like, you should have just done a cast recording.
Yeah, some of the
I get
takes.
that's more money, but like, come on.
Yeah, some of the takes you know it's from the movie because like Dr. Dillman behind the glass is still in there, and then some of them something is not the same. She didn't whisper it, so that means they re-recorded it for that. So it's just all, it feels like a big Frankenstein's monster, and everything doesn't sound good to listen to, and it sucks. It sounds like Wicked Jr. in a lot of the cases, unfortunately.
Kids Bop Wicked.
Yeah, like I was like, oh man, this sucks because I want to listen to it, but it's just unlistenable to me.
Well, you still got the Broadway.
Yeah,
recording.
if I watch it in the movie, perfect, awesome.
Talking about positives real quick again. I do want to shout out John Powell was the composer for the score of the film, and John Powell's a great. He did How to Train Your Dragon.
with the live action's coming out for that. Honestly, not a bad trailer. Like I feel like
fuck that movie's existence. Fuck that movie exists. But fuck Mufasa too as well. I don't care. I don't even care. Songs actually sound pretty good because Lin-Manuel Miranda made them. But fuck that movie for existing.
yeah, go see Kraven the Hunter instead.
Real cinema.
Don't see that either.
Wait for Sonic 3.
That's fine. I'm not strongly opinionated on that.
Now we know where you lie.
But John Powell is a very good composer. He also did Kung Fu Panda, like a lot of Kung Fu Panda's score. I believe, was it him? I think so. Yeah, he did a lot of Kung Fu Panda stuff.
So he's a DreamWorks guy.
He's a really good composer who's done a lot of DreamWorks stuff. All the most memorable stuff is from him from DreamWorks.
Somebody wants.
Well, not stuff that's not
I know.
stuff that's not
The
a
score.
soundtrack. But he did a great job in like taking all those motifs and whatnot and working them into the score. Rather than what really annoys me with some composers where they're like, I didn't write these songs, so I don't want to fucking use them. Like with, for instance, the Sonic the Hedgehog movies where the composer's just like, I'm just gonna do my own shit. And it's like, cool, your own shit isn't as fun as just using the
music.
themes.
Yeah.
Or like the One Piece live action where it's like, we're not gonna use the music you like at all.
Yeah.
Except for this one part, just to satisfy you cretins. It's like, God,
Fucking weebs.
I don't want to hear your weird off-brand Pirates of the Caribbean shit. I'm not saying the composer's bad. When there's
bothers
iconic
you.
music related
Yeah.
to something that I like, I want to hear
Yeah,
versions
whereas
of
in
that music.
Wicked they did blend in the motifs of the songs into the soundtrack
Yes.
very seamlessly and in very appropriate moments.
And yeah, and they did it in ways that foreshadow things. Like John Powell paid attention and did the job well. Like, and there's even small little things. Like I noted to Jesse during the movie that the bell of the school does a few notes from For Good. Like they keep seeding in For Good here and there, just that da 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 da.
Yeah.
Dun 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 dun. Like they just
they
sneak it in a lot.
Every now and again, I kept thinking to myself, like, "Am I misremembering the show? Is that in the first act?" Like,
No, it's just like it's a great
Yeah.
way to like when it comes in, it's gonna like for people who don't know the show, it'll still feel like it's a song that just should be here because they've heard it and they don't realize they've heard it, which is very smart. It's good composing.
Yeah. So I'm so excited for people who don't know the musical, and then they're gonna see part 2 and be
Oh,
like,
and they're gonna be
"Ugh."
sobbing during Forgotten, and so are you.
I will. I almost certain will be.
Yeah.
I might feel things too. Like
You might discover human emotions during it.
Oh, I felt sad during. I don't think I've been on the point of like close to crying during it, but like I definitely like it made me feel things. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I wouldn't like it.
That's the point of
things that
media.
don't make me feel things. I don't like them. That's why I'm really not looking.
Fuck
forward
you,
to Kraven.
Novocaine. Fuck you.
That's why I'm really not looking forward to Kraven the Hunter. I feel like I'm gonna feel.
I'm
nothing.
giving it a fair shake.
I'm not. I think it shouldn't exist. There's a lot of movies that should not exist.
It's an uphill climb for Stephan.
It'll have to do a lot, and it won't do it.
You never know. Aaron Taylor Johnson will bring it home.
It depends when
if
he
it's
takes off
anybody,
his
it'd be
shirt.
Russell Crowe. But
Dr. Jekyll himself.
yeah, I guess going into details now.
Yeah,
Spoiler free zone.
We're moving into the spoiler zone. If you haven't seen it yet, or the play, or if you care about spoilers,
If you hate musicals, you might like it anyway,
Yeah,
or you might
the-
not. It depends on how much you hate.
the
musicals.
recommendation is
if you,
there.
If you like Disney movies, you'll probably like this.
Yeah.
It's honestly a better Disney movie than
Then
any
a lot
recent
of
Disney
past
movies.
Disney movies for the past 20 years.
Yeah.
We should get a piece of art that's like a splash zone, but a spoiler zone, so it goes boom, and there's like water.
Well, that's on you. You're editing. Go ahead and see what you got.
It's gonna look like shit. Here it is.
I did as a kid imagine Wicked as being an animated adaptation. I didn't imagine it as live action when I was
70% of this is basically animated, though. But I will say one of my favorite.
actually like a lot of the sets are built for
it's,
like
it's
a lot, most of
shockingly
it's,
good how practical it is.
most
like,
of it's practical.
The Dancing Through Life segment where they're in the library, that hamster wheel contraption, I fucking love that thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I keep going back to. I was like, I want to play on that. Like,
It's a very Ozian like perspective on how to have a library, which is good. Like because Ozian stuff is just supposed to be kind of. That doesn't really make sense, but it makes sense to them.
and can we also talk about like the standout that like I know going into it apparently there was a lot of like negative hype. Ariana Grande was fucking perfect.
She was amazing. Yeah. I had faith in her. I think there was a lot of hate for her before people even like. It was a lot of just guys online who've never seen her act before that were like, she's a bad actor. I'm like, have you
never
seen her in anything?
I've never seen her act before either, but
Yeah.
she was absolutely perfect as Glinda.
I had seen her be funny and like act a bit, so I was like middling. I was like, it could be good, it could be bad. Like I was not one way or another on it really.
Look, I'd be hypocritical as shit if I said like, oh, people can't cross genres. Like, you can't go from singing to acting. Like, fuck me, I'm a YouTuber and I want to be an actor.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, she was like a major character on Victorious, but that was like right out of I aged out of it as Victorious was happening, so I never actually saw it until I was an adult.
I've never seen her act.
so I did end up seeing it. So
I've never
and she
seen her
was,
act
and
in
she was
anything.
always the funniest person there.
Always the funniest.
But no,
she has great comedic chops.
Yeah, she hits the timing perfectly. She hits like the airheadedness, the bubbliness.
Yeah.
Like I don't know why. Like this bit never like works with me, but she'd always do this thing where like, oh, there's a little man. It's just like as something's happening, just like, oh, and he has this adorable mustache.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
delivery of like
you guffawed both times she brought up the mustache man.
it's really funny.
She's real, like it's just so.
And her physical comedy also very strong.
And her performance, like her delivery, is just so authentic in those moments where it's like, no, this is just how she's thinking. She's speaking speaking like flow of consciousness, and I believe it.
And like being able to be funny and cute is basically the only way to keep Galinda
Tolerable, because otherwise she's
likable
awful.
in any way. Yeah, because
Yes,
when you actually look at the things she does, she is such a piece of shit.
Yeah, she's a racist. She's a narcissist. She's fucking terrible as a person.
She's like the worst liberal on the planet. Like that is her function in the story.
Yeah, she's like, I'm gonna help you.
She's
you know?
performative.
Yeah.
Like when it's like, and in honor of his loss, I'm going to change my name.
Yeah, it's not even that she hates
This is
anybody.
my sacrifice for him.
Yeah.
It's not even that she hates anybody. She just
No.
doesn't really care.
No, yeah.
Like
again,
she's entirely like she's
she's
a career,
shallow.
she's literally a career politician. Like that is her function.
Yeah, that's going to be her function in the second act. Spoilers.
Yeah.
But, spoilers.
But we're in the
think you
spoilers, and by the end of the movie, the part one, you get that.
Yeah, you can figure that out from the end of the part one, because like my
And she basically talks about it in Popular, like
yeah. My girlfriend has not seen Wicked, and so she was kind of like, it was really interesting because I'm a theater kid. I'm like, everyone knows Wicked, but she was talking about it after we saw it from a perspective of not knowing anything, and I'm like, oh wow, yeah, you don't know anything, and she was like, yeah, I'm assuming Galinda is like gonna be playing into this, next, and I'm like, I can't say anything, but
won't tell you.
yeah.
Until you see the Broadway or the off-Broadway show at this point, but
I'll send her a
yeah.
slime
That means
tutorial.
we also can't talk about like any like reveals of who is who.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just making that note
Sure, yeah.
out loud for us.
Although in terms like of one of the bigger ones. I feel like it's heavily lampshaded, but
It is, but if you're not thinking about it, then you you might be surprised.
Yeah. I was gonna say that my favorite, one of my favorite like little quirks that she gave Galinda is her little like, like she just does a little smile, and I fucking love that so much because whenever she does it, like whenever she does it, she's like sad, but she doesn't want to make you feel like she's sad. So she instead of crying, she goes, you know, like I loved that every time she did it. It was very purposeful.
It's a moment of discomfort. And speaking of like that kind of emotional vulnerability, I want to go back to the conversation about, you know, the lighting and how it kind of like washes out the color palettes. A lot of the complaints that I've seen on social media have been like, what's the point of making her green if half the time she doesn't look green? Every time that happens, every time she's in a space where either they'll like, you know, they have like fractal lighting. Like notably at Ozdust, there's the like the disco ball, or that one room with the stained glass where she doesn't look green, like due to you know just how prismatic coloring works. Every time that happens is a point where she is being emotionally vulnerable. Whenever she has her walls up, she looks green as the Hulk, which I think is like a really cool thing for the film. It's something that I picked up at least.
There's a lot of like visual stuff in there that like they clearly actually put thought into. Like I noticed on the second viewing, like the thing where everybody who falls in love with somebody gets a flower. So Glinda gets a flower when she falls in love with Fiyero. And then Elphaba gets a flower when Glinda gives that flower to Elphaba, and Elphaba's clearly fallen in love with Glinda, which is almost text in this adaptation.
Both Glinda actresses have been like, she's a little in the closet. Like,
and Nessa Rose
And there's
gets a
nothing
flower.
wrong with platonic love either. So
Yeah, but
I never saw it from.
it's okay. It's fairly sapphic.
In the book, she literally kisses Glinda. But in the Wicked book specifically,
You know how bad my gaydar is that I never considered them a possible romantic anything until you were like, wow, they're really leaning into the sapphic thing, huh? And I was like, sure, we all know this.
Yeah, but yeah, your gaydar is always on.
I mean,
really
the entire beginning of Loathing is supposed to hint at the fact that like, oh, maybe they
a
have
whole
the
bit.
hots for each other, and that's like, no, I hate you. That's the rug pull for that song.
But continuing that, like Nessa Rose also has a flower after she falls in love with Bach, and then Fiyero gets a flower after he falls in love with Elphaba. Like it's a literal like thing where someone's wearing a flower every single time they've just fallen in love.
Yeah, and then
So,
Fiyero
like-
gives his flower to her at the train.
Yes, and so like it's actually important and is I think
Symbolism.
a clear indicator,
Metaphor.
a clear indicator of Elphaba also having romantic feelings for Glinda, and you know probably vice versa, but you know they don't have the symbolism for her for that.
We all know this.
These are things that we all understand.
Clearly.
It's so wild that you listened to the musical for years and didn't pick it up. And at
Sometimes
one point, you were
sometimes you-
considering yourself a lesbian.
Yeah, at one point.
You still weren't picking up.
That's
on
why
it.
that's honestly that's why I realized I wasn't because I'm so bad at that. I could get.
Turns out
into
you're bad at
more,
all of
but
it, though,
I'm
so-
just bad at all of it. I just don't.
I keep
it's
noticing
so bad. I don't.
when people are gaying things, and then you're like, oh yeah.
You have to point it out to me every time, and it's embarrassing. Like, sure, we all knew this. We all knew
But
this.
yeah, no, like there's a lot of like visual stuff in there that's very intentional. A lot of like deep cut just Oz lore stuff. Like they reference Mombi, who is an important witch in the Oz books. They say she's the professor of biological studies, which is fucked.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
Which I only know because he told me.
Yes, and like they show the Deadly Desert, which is a desert surrounding Oz that if you touch it, you instantly turn to dust and die. That is from the original books.
We were in the theater, and you leaned over and was like, "Fun fact: if you touch that."
Wild to put it right next to a school, because if any of those
Insane.
kids ends up touching that dust, they're dead.
Doesn't Elphaba like run
Crazy
through it?
allergies.
No, she runs up to a cliff looking out at it.
Oh, okay, good, sick.
There just wasn't an updraft that day, so she's fine.
I guess
That would've
to
been
be fair,
fucked.
to be fair, if she falls off the cliff, she's dead anyway.
Damn. This joyous moment.
I will say, if I have any gripes with the movie at all, it's the fact that it knows it's a popular musical. So every time it gets to like one of those points in a song, it feels like it needs to take that
Yeah, I
patient
was
beat.
getting very annoyed with that. I didn't mind the pauses of because like there were character beats that seemed that were fun in like the beginning of Dancing Through Life and stuff, but in Defying Gravity it gets really annoying.
Popular had one too, where it was just like you're dwelling on this a little too.
Yeah, Popular also overextended itself at the end, in my opinion. But like Defying Gravity is one where like it kind of annoyed me the first time. The second time it annoyed me more when they just like sort of space out the beats.
Yeah, where they take
an insane amount.
Where they take that beat to give you the sequel hook right before the final.
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, and
Which, funny enough, I didn't like it out of context, that last note, but in context, I loved it. Like, I was fine
the
with
fact
it.
that they changed the iconic.
The run, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they have Idina Menzel show up and do that bit.
Yeah.
Which I felt like was a great way to both involve the people that made these characters, you know, very famous on the Broadway scene, and to exposit that One Short Day in Emerald City bit.
Yeah, which I don't recall that song in the original soundtrack.
No,
Grimmery.
I feel like that
was-
whole Grimmery thing was added to give context to the audience.
Yeah,
it was.
I was like, no, all of this feels new. It's fine. It's
Yeah.
like Steven Schwartz still has it, but like you know,
It was there to exposit and to basically be fodder for the Broadway cast.
Yeah, because they really do in the play. They just kind of go right to the Grimmery, and they're like, "This book is important," and you're like, "Okay." I like that they were. It's funny though, as someone who knows the musical so well, the guy comes out and he's like, "The old ones" or whatever, and these freaky guys start dancing. I was like, "Hold on." It felt like that moment in the dog door sketch of I Think You Should Leave, where he's just talking normal, and then all of a sudden there's a 3D like freaky like guy. I'm like, I don't remember that. That's not supposed to be here. What are you? But I did. I liked all the pieces that they. The little things that they changed from the play, I like the choices that they made, like Dr. Dillerman talking to other animals
fleshing
and not
out Dr.
talking
Dillerman stuff is
directly.
important.
Yeah.
The way they fleshed out the story of what is essentially an animal genocide.
And also,
Yeah,
I'll be honest, Dr. Dillerman's way more likable in the movie than he was in the show. Like in the show, he's kind of just like I don't care about this guy.
Yeah, yeah.
But like for some reason, making him a literal goat makes it easier to like him.
Yeah,
Making him an actual goat and like showing the like, yeah, no, in this world, like animals have the magic ability, like, you know, they have the ability to speak because that's the way this land works,
Yeah.
and they're slowly losing that because of genocide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also I really liked that they changed Glinda getting onto the train last minute. I really liked that.
Yeah.
I liked that it was going to be Elphaba's moment, and she chooses.
Oh,
in
but this
that
is your moment. Okay, let me go.
Yeah, it worked really well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it also helps to make Glinda a little more likable that she was going to take a step back and not make it about her at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Like she did make it a little about her because she can't help herself. But
we can't expect all the change at once. I like that little step that she took.
yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a great character work in the fact that like she is so used to being like, you know, this perfect creature that everybody loves and adores, but then to be put next to somebody who is actually truly special, that's what makes it a good dynamic. Because everybody in the Emerald City fucking ignores her until she becomes useful.
Yeah. Well, and it's also like very like it helps to make her more likable as well. That like throughout all the third act, she essentially like is happily being support for Elphaba rather than being the center of attention, which is a step in the right direction for her character and helps her feel more likable, helps their friendship feel more real, even though we've barely gotten much time with it. Like we got more than we got in the stage show.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's also because the first act was stretched out to be the length of the entire show.
yes.
Yeah, no, I really, you know, when I'm watching the musical, you feel for their friendship and you see them, whatever, but I felt way more for them now because they stretched it out to 2 hours, and so you really
feels
feel
more-
it.
Yeah,
You
it's
can feel
shockingly
growth.
well paced for what it is.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean-
I did not feel the passage of time that much. Knowing the structure of the play and knowing what beat we were at was my only time frame of reference.
Yeah.
But like, you know, it does, like first act does fit very neatly into a 3-act structure, and the next one does too. Like again, like they just have to really like.
They need to
I-
lean into the conflict side of it.
And I assume
more.
Stephen Schwartz is gonna have to write at least 3 or 4 new songs.
Or they're going to have to take some incredibly pregnant pauses on some of the big beats.
I gotta hope not.
Well, one thing that they did really well in this that I was surprised about was in the middle of songs, they would sometimes cut away to do like almost a Naruto flashback for some characters. And it paced in really well that when they cut back into the song, I barely noticed.
Yeah. Also, breakout fucking role, Tiny Nessa Rose, cutest fucking little, like her delivery deserves an Oscar. Like it's so cute. I do not like kids, and she was fucking adorable. She stole the
she
show.
like barked out her lines. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Well, and also like when she's like screaming and crying, I like, you know, that's that I like kids, so like it's you know, it upsets me when I see kids upset.
Yeah.
Inherently, but you know, like you really feel it when she's like screaming and like covering her ears.
Yeah.
I also like the way that they showed, like, just in comparison to the stage play, where obviously they have to work with, you know, the practicality of the sets, being able to really go over the top with the examples of how Elphaba's powers manifest, I think really benefits the on-screen production.
Yeah.
As opposed to the stage play, where that initial burst at school where, you know, the wheelchair rolls back to her on stage magically, instead flying through the air. Things are like cracking around. It's like, okay, yeah, no, this is a much better way to show that she's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I, speaking of like that sequence, and like I've heard some people criticize that like Miss Morrible, like Michelle Yeoh, like isn't a strong singer, and like Madame Morrible doesn't need to be a strong singer. Like,
yeah, her and is it Peter Dinklage that played the goat?
Peter Dinklage.
Yeah, I don't think he's a particularly strong singer either.
But he's good enough.
He's fine.
Yeah,
like it was
his performance, and like in the same for Michelle Yeoh, their performances are more important than
they are clearly the weakest singers of the batch.
Yeah.
But I don't think it takes away from the movie.
Yeah, like and like Jeff Goldblum's also like a slightly weaker singer, though he has some like moments where his voice sounds very nice.
But he's such a good Oz.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
Well, and like you know, also that role is written for an older actor who can barely sing. But like just because there's always a role like that in a show. You know, when he goes into his head voice, he actually sounds very nice.
Yeah, yeah. They change. I think that they changed, you know, the octaves, and they had them speak like
sing. There was a lot of speak singing.
Yeah, I think they did it at a level where if I was a casual musical viewer, I wouldn't super notice. Like I'd be like, cool.
And I think casting wise, it was also important to get people that you just like Michelle Yeoh and Jeff Goldblum
as
for
these
those roles,
evil people.
Because like otherwise, it's obvious. Like obviously they're the villains, but you like these people, so you might get sucked in because like. You know, Jeff Goldblum's being a delightful little man.
He's a charming little con man.
Yeah.
It's perfect for him.
Yeah. And this time we talk about whoever Jeff Goldblum is in real life. I don't know. But
as an actor, he pulls off
as an
that
actor,
role
he's
perfectly.
extremely likable. And that really helps for getting you in Elphaba's perspective, which I'll also say, like, we haven't talked about Cynthia Erivo a lot right now. But like it's easy to like sort of talk around just because like you're like, nah, that's Elphaba.
She's fucking great.
Like you instantly identify with Elphaba and like see where she's coming from, and Cynthia Erivo keys into that very easily, and like she also manages to be a little wry, and it's easy for Elphaba to be boring.
She pulls off that like Daria-esque cynicism so well.
Yeah.
Yes, like her little bits of sarcasm
Sardonic.
here and there, like good and like, and but like it's one of those things where like. She's just so naturally, and also because most of us don't know who she is before now.
Yeah, yeah. This is the first thing that I've recognized.
So
her
people
in.
aren't really talking about her as much when they're like, "Wow, I was surprised by this person." It's like, well, that was Elphaba.
Yeah, she fits into this role so well that she almost gets lost in it.
Yeah.
I was talking before about like the neurodivergent versions of Glinda and Elphaba being my favorite, and she has such a charm to her. Where, like you said, it's very easy for Elphaba to be boring. I kind of feel like before I saw the ADD version of Glinda, I felt like everyone was kind of just doing the same delivery for her. But then I forget which actress it was, but they both did phenomenal. Where she was like doing cartoon voices during Popular and like just all over the place, and it was a really strong performance because she was doing something different, and vice versa. Also for Elphaba, like it's easy to just play Elphaba the same way. But when I saw her kind of have like a straight face, the line, when I saw it in the stage play, Dr. Dillerman is like, go hang out with your friends. And she was like, it's okay, I don't have any friends. And it was like straight.
Yeah.
So the audience laughed, but kind of awkwardly, because they were like, do we laugh at this? And Cynthia really captures that energy of Elphaba.
Very matter of fact. Like,
Yeah.
it's okay, I don't have friends.
Yes, exactly. She's like, I don't follow when it comes to like going to the dance.
It's not like the sort of thing. It's like, oh, it's okay, I don't have any friends.
Right,
Like
yeah.
not trying to be sad.
She's not going for pity. She's just speaking a fact.
Yeah. which is a smarter way to play it.
Yeah.
That's the better way
Because that's
to play
inherently
it.
sadder. That's normal.
Exactly, yes. And, Ariana playing Glinda also like keys into that, especially with the oh my god,
She's
the
so good
dance
at the
scene.
she's so good at the Mean Girl, and then at the Oztus Ballroom where they finally have that moment of vulnerability with each other, which is one of those like I felt the emotion well up just thinking about it.
Yeah.
It is such a beautiful scene.
It's so
where they're
good.
dancing, and again, that's when the colors are kind of like drowning out, where she just looks like she doesn't look green.
Yeah.
And they're just dancing, being emotionally vulnerable. It's fucking beautiful, and it's the first time since Glinda started mean girling that you actually start to kind of like her again.
Yeah, no, because I also like from our perspective of knowing what happens or whatever, I get emotional like each time that I watch it. Up to the fourth time I watch it, I was just sobbing the whole dance scene.
It is incredibly beneficial for those that have seen the play. Like it's amazing how you can see it on so many different levels. Like eventually there are going to be people who see part 2 and then go back to part 1 who now see
And they'll
the
watch
opening.
No One Mourns the Wicked and like
No
be
more,
like,
yeah. The entire opening act, looking at Ariana Grande's performance as Glinda throughout that, is like knowing what comes as somebody who's seen the show is another kind of like tearful sort of moment as
she's playing it very well. No, yeah, Jesse was instantly crying. I looked over to him and he had tears in his eyes watching No One Mourns the Wicked.
Yeah, well, because I was thinking like, I wonder what normies are they gonna cry at certain points? And during the dance scene, when she's wiping away the tear from Elphaba's face, my girlfriend looked at me and was like, yeah, that's it. That's the part.
That part where they like first get that embrace and she gets that like that first moment of human kindness possibly in her life.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god.
It's so intense. Yeah, because I was gonna bring this up that like, when you're viewing actors from the stage, there's enough distance where like, if they're sad, you know that they're sad. But viewing it from a movie
Close-up?
perspective, yeah.
Like you see the tears.
Yeah, from the first scene, Glinda like just looks fucking dead inside during No One Mourns the Wicked, and I started getting very emotional very quickly.
When they bring in the Elphaba effigy.
Yeah.
Just like looking at it.
That's one where like when I was watched the first time, like the way they were already handling No One Mourns the Wicked, I was like, okay, this is a great start. And then they bring the effigy, like, holy fuck! Yeah. God damn.
How are people missing the metaphor? How are
And
people?
also like one of those ones people had who were like familiar with the show when there's like, look at her, she's wicked, kill her!
Yeah.
Kill her! That wasn't in the show.
That wasn't in the show.
They just said get her in the show.
Yeah, that's a 3D monster going. I'm like, that's not that doesn't belong there. That's more intense.
Yeah, is it killer jump scare? It's fantastic. Like that entire opening, like the No One Mourns the Wicked, that whole opening beat is so great for establishing Glinda. I love the way they handled the like, what'd you say? Hold up. Boonk. What? the bubble.
Leaning
And
into the comedy is great.
Yeah, visually, it's so striking too, as she's like coming out of the sky and the big pink bubble. It's like, okay, you can see why people see her as this ethereal light of goodness.
Yeah.
But also like the fact that like it's a machine, but if you're not thinking about it,
Yeah.
it looks like magic. Mm-hmm. It looks like she's doing magic, but it's it's a machine that makes the bubble.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very good opening, and like I do like that they lean into some like almost horror elements throughout it, like when the wings are being made.
yeah.
Like that's
It's
like
fucked up.
straight up body horror. Like it looks bad that it's happening.
Yeah, like they do a good job in the stage adaptation, but in the movie, they're able to go that extra mile by actually making them. I mean, they're CGI monkeys, obviously,
Yeah.
but just like watching as these horrible, like mutated wings kind of pop out of their back as they scream in agony is like,
Yeah.
oh boy.
The lion in the cage is so fucked up in CGI because on the stage it's like a puppet or it's like a tail that you see. Yeah, and seeing an actual lion like someone slapping the cage on the lion, I was like, get the fuck away! I was like having reactions to it.
Yeah, it's. I've heard some people like vocally wonder like, how fucked up are the other transformations going to be in the future?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we want to get into the greater spoilers now, but
I feel like we've talked about the movie itself. Like, so yeah, if you have not seen the play or read the book, I guess.
if you don't know what's going to happen,
If you don't know what's going to happen,
feel
here's
free
your
to-
cutoff
yeah.
point. Spoiler zone! Greg, thank you for
full
graphic
spoilers,
again.
full contact spoilers.
We're soaking wet.
Avoid the water bucket!
But I've heard people wonder vocally like, what's the transformation into the Tin Man and the Scarecrow going to be like?
Yeah.
How fucked up is that?
It'll
gonna
be interesting to see, because we got like a little glimpse of Tiny Dorothy in the opening, like right before No One Mourns the Wicked, as they're wandering back to Munchkin Land.
And it's interesting to watch that being like, well, that's Hero, that's Bach.
Yeah, and I'm wondering how they'll since they do need to expand, I wonder if they'll do what the stage show did and just have like Dorothy always be kind of off screen, or if they'll actually bring in like a Dorothy.
Yeah.
I wonder, because
I feel like they have to expand that part. Like they just
It's one of the only things to expand.
Well, there's a lot of political stuff before that. I think halfway through the movie is when Dorothy comes in. Like you have the turn with Fiyero, and then another time.
Yeah. Because you have to do the whole poor Nessa in the first act bit.
Yes,
first.
you have to do all that. You have to have the connection with Fiyero and Alpha be established. You have to have like the entirety of their lives. So I think the first hour and a half is going to be before Dorothy, and then everything else is going to be after, like when Dorothy arrives and like everything happening there.
Yeah, pre-Dorothy AD.
Yeah.
I'm so thrilled we're getting Nessa's song, because like it's not on the soundtrack. People don't know it exists unless you see the play.
I don't know what you're talking about. So
Yeah, well there we go.
but I know what happens with Nessa, and some people are like firstly, the actress who plays Nessa is a wheelchair-bound person.
Yeah, she's paraplegic.
So like people
I
are
don't
wondering,
know.
like,
Wonder
and
what they're gonna do there.
Well,
Yeah.
I assume she's gonna make the shoes give her the ability to fly.
Oh,
that could be a way around it.
Which works around like they can do stuff with strings.
You don't
and
think
stuff,
they're just gonna wire work her and just like Pinocchio the legs like Joe Swanson?
And they said like they wanted to like maybe change how it's done, like so
Okay.
it's not like just make me walk. It like, and it makes more sense. She has levitation powers. She makes the shoes fly.
it also, I saw people talking about the possibility of the CGI putting her head on another actress's body.
Yeah.
I don't know how likely that is, but
I don't think so.
yeah.
Well, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah,
Because
but like they also went through like I noticed in the movie, like when she holds the broom, she has the ability to fly. She doesn't have to sit on it.
which I think is a much
Right.
better visual.
Yeah.
Like it looks
Yeah.
more ethereal and cool.
Yeah, like she just needs to hold the broom, and the broom itself grants her the ability to fly. So if the shoes work the same way, that makes them useful, and that's how they could help get Dorothy home at the end.
Although the whole walking aspect of it is such a big part in the play itself. Like
well,
I
Dorothy
think
doesn't,
flying
Dorothy
kind of
doesn't
takes.
learn that ability until at the end because Glinda's stupid. So in this version, Glinda's stupid.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, just Nessa being able to walk is such a big part of the play that I feel like it being flight is less powerful somehow. So it will be interesting. Maybe they will like do the CGI thing, or maybe like I don't know. I just don't think her flying would be as powerful for some
Yeah,
reason.
because the whole metaphor, I mean, it's not even a metaphor, it's ableism. You know, like, you see this green girl that people are like, yeah, your skin is bad. And we all know this. And she's like, yes, my skin is bad. And then someone in a wheelchair, like, how tragically beautiful you are. And people are just like, you know,
Oh man,
with wheelchair
your
users.
beauty wasted on your worthless leg.
Yeah, no, it is, because it's like, you know, with wheelchair users, you're not supposed to, like, that's an extension of their body is the wheelchair, so you're not supposed to move them without their permission. And, you know, the headmistress, I loved her, like, she had such
Miss
a...
Coddle, very on the name.
Yeah,
on the nose name.
I loved how she played her, because, like, in the stage play, you know, if when Elphaba acts out or whatever, she's like, you know, take your seat, you know, whatever. And in this version, she's like, scared of her. She's just smiling, you know, like, take your seat, please don't hurt me.
But yeah,
you need
like
to
the
sit down.
perspective of someone who's actually in a wheelchair, I think is part of why they want to change it, because like people in wheelchairs seem to maybe not like the part where like it's like, well, just you know, make me normal.
Yeah.
And so making it something a little more fantastical might be a way to massage that.
Maybe.
Whatever it is, I trust John Chu with it now, because the actress for Nessa was talking about how accessible everything was for her, and everyone was like so cool with her and like made sure everything that was comfortable and good for her. So I feel like I would assume John Chu's gonna ask her directly and be like, is this cool?
I think it's been confirmed that like they worked it out together, sort of what they wanted to do.
Sick.
So
Well,
it'll
yep.
be interesting to see, because that the entire the entire sequel, since it is
They're gonna have to change a lot anyway.
they're gonna have to change a fair amount of things, stretch out a lot of things, because
and just like sort of flesh out plot, like, you know, at the end they have the whole thing where like it was a ruse. She doesn't melt or whatever, and like we actually see Elphaba escaping the castle in the opening.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll expand on the
conspiracy to do that, to like fake it, like because Fira's in on it.
Either expand on that or expand on the what happens after.
I'm just imagining though, like they do the things like what really happened, and then just like you hear the
Clank.
the ocean's limit down, and let's like, explain exactly how they did the heist.
Yeah.
Well, they also set up a lot by like the things that they added in Act 1 that I'm assuming they'll do more in Act 2. Like they gave us that nurse bear so that she could not talk in Act 2 and hurt us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Dr. Dilliman, they're probably going to do something with Dr. Dilliman.
I mean, he does have that part in the second act of the play.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I only saw a slime tutorial like once.
No, they're definitely going to lean more on the political strife of the animals in the second act. They kind of have to, because that's the big core of Elphaba's rebellion.
And they'll probably flesh out stuff like the fact that nobody lets the Cowardly Lion speak for himself. Like...
Yeah, I'm wondering how much like they'll all be more like it. I mean, obviously Bach and Fiyero are characters already, but I'm wondering how much the Cowardly Lion is going to play in.
I don't know.
And if it's going to be like an Aslan, Liam Neeson-esque lion, or if it's still going to be a guy dressed like a lion.
And it might be a thing where like they just have like a thing where like they do have like all those characters are actually in on getting Elphaba out of that situation and on making the animals safe or something. But
it would be interesting if Elphaba has a relation, like, because the Cowardly Lion is the lion that they helped let loose, right? Like that was the one that Fiyero saved.
Yes.
So if they actually develop the character of it, maybe that's where they can expand a bit more on too.
it's definitely part of it. Like, yeah, I can only assume that like they in the trailer they showed Dorothy talking to the wizard, like a wide shot of the four of them talking to the wizard. So you can only assume that like they're going to expand that part of the story.
Just do Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
I also noticed that when someone asks, "Is it true you were her friend?" and she has that little flashback, we see a glimpse of the two hands doing this, and then we show a scene where Elphaba's putting her hat on, and they're sitting, and it's sunset, and that doesn't happen in Act 1. So they're showing us something.
That might be for good.
Maybe, yeah, they're showing us something.
For Good is the only song I really remember in Act 2, honestly. Which, I
As
mean,
long
it's
as
a
Your
fucking
Mind is one I
beautiful
remember
song.
as well.
Oh, you know what? I don't think that can be For Good because they're in the clock tower or the dark space at that time.
Well, then again, they play a lot with, where and when they're actually singing in this, and like because they do a lot of montages. So you never know.
Yeah, who knows?
Could be.
But it's like there's a lot of questions on how they're going to do part 2, and like they could go well, it could go badly. I don't know. But I do feel like
I have faith, though. I have faith.
They got to
after
have
this.
Stephen Schwartz write more songs. Because
Get back in there, Steven!
it can't be just the songs that exist in Act 2, because that would feel like a ripoff. Like when the first one's such a musical. It's like when every Disney movie like just stops having songs in the third act. You're like, well, okay, Aladdin. Like I guess we'll always sing at the end now.
We'll just run there.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it's just an action scene.
Yeah, it is interesting because that was one thing that I was thinking about when they mentioned that, it's just going to be the first act. I'm like, isn't that where all of the songs are?
Yeah, I mean, as long as Your Mind is in part 2, which is like fine as a love ballad. No Good Deed Goes Unpunished.
That one, yeah, that's fair.
And For Good, and those are the standouts to me.
Yeah, okay. I forgot about No Good Deed.
Yeah, I love that one.
All the other songs.
A lot of repraises.
I think as long as Your Mind is gonna break everyone, they're gonna be so good in that. Like, oh my god,
That song is so horny.
it's so horny. It's gonna be so horny.
I mean, it's a fairly horny movie in general, so.
when Elphaba and Glinda are eye fucking each other.
Yeah, and but they really lay it on and pretty thick and popular. Anyway, I think we're wrapping up.
Yeah.
Anyone have anything they want to say before we?
I just think it's a spectacular movie. I think it's well worth seeing.
We're
in theaters
dorks
when possible.
who have nitpicks because we're theater dorks.
Yeah.
Well, we
Other
always
people
have
won't have those nitpicks.
We're like, what's the point of doing a review if you don't have any nits to pick?
Well, we have like very specific ones of being so familiar with the material that we're like, it wasn't this way, and other people won't care.
Yeah, I think like if you need my overall review, I think it's a fantastic date movie. I think it's a great movie to see with your family.
Yeah.
It's just good.
Yeah, for good.
And keep an eye out for the stuff that you may not have noticed.
Yeah, you can see it second time, third time.
This is still in the spoiler section, and so
I mean, we're at the end.
Yeah,
So
it's so funny that Elphaba's dad has a heart attack. I forgot. I totally forgot. It's really funny every time. But I'm feeling things from Defying Gravity, so I didn't laugh any of the times. And then afterwards, I was remembering it. I was like, "That's really funny."
Hey, it's okay.
Oh my god!
Oh, I do actually want to note, like a small little character thing. I don't know if this is in the original show or not, but does Elphaba tell the story of like why her dad hates her in the show?
It's been too long
Yeah.
since I've seen the show.
I believe
But
it does.
I think it's very interesting that Glinda, she's like, no, it's not your fault, which is correct. But then she follows up with, it's the milkweed's fault. It's like, no, it's her dad's fault. But the fact that Glinda only identifies the symptom and not the actual problem.
It's very appropriate for
It's
the
very
character.
like
Yeah.
not blaming the authority figure. That's Glinda.
Yeah.
Which is it's a nice little thing of her like trying to do the right thing, but not actually knowing who the actual blame goes to.
Yeah.
And there's still in the play version in Act 2, there's a thing where Glinda does a little this guy with a big staff, and I love that they had her doing that in Popular. They have a little, and then it goes off. That's very fun because she's not good at it yet. You know, she does it and it flies away.
She's always bad at magic is kind of the thing.
Yeah. Well, just twirling it.
Yeah,
You know,
okay.
The act of that.
Yeah.
Milk flour, not milkweed.
Don't
Check it out.
Don't
it's
chew
good.
milk flour.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Don't miss it. I liked it so much I bought merch.
Yeah.
I also just wanted more tank tops.
All right, bye.
See you for Craven
Fuck
the Hunter.
off. Get the fuck out of here.
I can't wait to see Quavo no Hunter.
Craven the Hunter.
Craven the Hunter.
Princess.
Like he's also in Nosferatu, and that's a movie I'm legitimately looking forward to.